Welcome to the Early Wedge presented by BetMGM. I am your host, Eric Cohen, and yes, we are back. We took the Olympic week off, and we are back for the final 4 weeks of the PGA Tour season. Obviously, it's the last regular season tournament this week, the Wyndham Championship, and then the 3-week FedEx Cup playoffs, and we have you covered for all of it. So let's not waste any time and bring in the stars of the show. We have the host of the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and one of the best golf bettors who is on an absolute tear. It is Sia Nejad. And then we have one of the great golf writers in the country, in the world, from CBS Sports, of course, Patrick McDonald. All right, Patrick, we're going to start this up. Wait, you have a silver medal? Is that what's going on there with your graphic there? Did I see a silver medal there?
That's from the first cut.
Okay.
I medaled in our competition.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about the medals. We're done here with the Player of the Year debate. It has to be Scottie Scheffler now. Xander, after what we saw from the fourth round, you can't even consider it despite 2 majors, right?
Yeah, it's over. If Xander won the gold medal, I think the case could be made that they are tied heading into the playoffs. That's how I would have put it.
Me too.
Sia, first of all, the Scottie Scheffler's win should not count on my unbettable graphic, correct?
Well, that one actually should count. The one I question is the Shane Lowry one.
Okay.
But no, I think Scottie should count, even though it's not a PGA Tour event.
Jake will surprise us for later in the show. All right, so Sia, your thoughts on what you saw out there in the in France as far as the Olympic golf should Jon Rahm be added to a do not bet list for the rest of the year? Just any other random thoughts that you've had?
I mean, it's interesting, the perspective on Jon Rahm, because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we would have been smitten with the idea that he was even in contention at the Olympics on a Sunday. And then, of course, he wins the live event and contends in France. So, I mean, I think Jon Rahm's game is fine. I mean, anybody can have a bad round. I'm very curious to see, like, I'm hoping these tours merge someday soon. I'm curious to see Jon Rahm, on a regular basis up against some of these guys like Xander and Scottie Scheffler. But Scottie -9 under on the final day. I mean, he put an absolute punctuation mark on any potential discussion between him and Xander Schauffele.
Patrick, be honest. After 10 holes on Sunday, Jon Rahm, we all thought Jon Rahm was going to win the gold medal, right? Thought it was over.
Yeah, it was definitely over. I think he was as low as -750 to win the gold medal, and he didn't get the gold, he didn't get the silver or the bronze. He didn't even get 4th place either. It was a collapse, and a shocking one at that.
See, based on what we saw from guys like Victor Perez or anyone that played in Olympic golf, do you expect those guys to continue the form this week, or are you staying away from them as they head to the Wyndham across the pond?
I don't know that like the travel and the Olympic experience is going to weigh in too much. I mean, I these are different courses, different setups. I mean, I think that's what I would factor in more than anything is Victor Perez a good course fit here at Sedgefield versus what he was doing in Paris? And the answer might be yes to that. I'm not really on Victor Perez this week, but I understand the arguments as to why you might be. Also, I mean, from a narrative standpoint, if you're going to talk about travel, I believe he's 71st in the FedEx Cup standings. So he's right on that line, actually technically in, because Grayson Murray, of course, occupies one of those top 70 spots. So just more interesting to me to see how some of those people on the fringe play relative to their spot on the FedEx Cup standings. Well, in other words, relative to that, as opposed to traveling.
All right, let's start off with storylines. I'm actually going to go first here because, Patrick, you're located in the Southeast, and there's a bunch of weather going through, and then we look at the forecast for Thursday, and there are 50-mile-an-hour winds in Greensboro. So basically, how's the weather going to affect this tournament? What can you tell us since you're basically living through it right now?
Yes, I woke up this morning to destruction here in Charleston, South Carolina. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of rain. I think we got like half a foot. There was flooding, but the city of Charleston floods if someone spills a drink downtown. That's kind of just how it rolls over here. And so you had the Weather Channel guys. I went on a whole tangent about this Weather Channel guy, how he's faking out the public with where he's setting up shop, right? He goes to the one street that's always flooded. He gets his waders on. He gets his boots on. He goes in. He goes, oh, my gosh, look how much rain there is. And then on the other side of the camera, you know what you see? A perfectly clean road. Everything's fine. A great street. People walk in, living their everyday lives. So the path of Debbie she jetted out east into the ocean. That's where it is now. It's sunshine and rainbows here in Charleston. And I think it's supposed to come back, just a little quick pit stop. And then I believe Friday morning, it's going to be like the eye of it is going to be in Greensboro. So the bands are obviously going to hit come Thursday as well.
So, Sia, what do you think happens here? I know we're not doing FRLs on the show. How do you play this market, or do you just skip it this week?
Yeah, I'm going to play the market. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer than normal because, when I was looking at weather stuff, I don't know, 6-7 hours ago, it looked like the morning on Thursday was going to get hit with a ton of wind and crazy wind gusts, and that it was going to calm down in the afternoon. And then I think I looked a little bit later and it kind of flipped. And then Patrick's saying, hey, a lot of this might come through overnight or Friday morning. So I just don't want to give out picks that I find out, 12 hours from now are really bad picks because I gave out guys in a morning wave that I thought I was going to like, but that ends up being the bad wave or what have you. I think we're going to get a lot of starting and stopping potentially. So that affects this as well. This is one of those first round leader situations where I'll probably tweet them out like Wednesday afternoon, maybe Wednesday evening, maybe if I get a good read on the early edge tomorrow morning. But that's one market. Like, it's one thing to play DFS and anticipate weather waves on a Tuesday, which you generally don't want to do. You want to wait, but it's another thing to put out first round leaders when like you could have a dire weather situation with balls flying all kinds of different directions.
All right, so that makes a great point. So, Patrick, do you think this will be a full 72-hole tournament, or could you see the PGA Tour not wanting to play on Monday because of the FedEx Cup playoffs and just ending this after 54?
They'll play Monday.
Okay.
Because look back at 2021, the Northern Trust that Tony Finau won during the playoffs. That was a Monday finish before the BMW Championship. So if they have to go to Monday, they will, but I don't think they will go to Tuesday. So it could be a Wyndham Clark, Pebble Beach situation too. It's so up in the air.
All right, fair enough. Now, Sia, you think once they do get going that there are plenty of live betting opportunities that would make sense?
Yeah, I think this is like the perfect tournament. So we did that, 2 weeks ago at the 3M Open where, I put out Johnny Vegas at 60-1 after Thursday. Part of the reason I like that is because it's a watered down field like we have this week. You don't have your Scotties at the top or your Xanders or your Rorys that you can anticipate a couple of those guys usually being near the top after a round one. That's just not the case here. And it's these watered down, these alt event, these tournaments that don't have a lot of talent. That's where I like the live betting opportunity, because you can get a Johnny Vegas to pass a ton in the field because he's not having to chase down the Rorys and the Xanders and the Scotties. You add in the weather issue that might play to somebody's advantage after round one, or let's say it's an abridged round one. We're still going to have odds on these golfers. Like, there's a lot of opportunities in tournaments like this. And I think the extra layer with the weather actually gives us maybe even more of an edge to find a guy that's maybe 4, 5, 6 strokes back that can chase down the field at 40-1 or 50-1 or 60-1 again.
All right. Now, Patrick, you're looking at this. This is the last regular season event for the PGA Tour. And that means it's time for who gets in the playoffs and who doesn't.
Exactly. The top 70, and to correct you, Sia, the top 70 is good how it is right now. So Victor Perez is the last man out. Brendan Todd is the bubble boy. But you have guys like, you have a lot of PGA Tour winners who are kind of on the cusp. Johnny Vegas, just inside. Davis Riley, just outside. Harry Hall, or as I call him, Ari All, is just outside as well. Nick Dunlap, who has won twice this season, he's probably good, but he's probably the last person who you would mark as like, okay, kind of safe. But he's won twice, didn't get FedEx Cup points for that win at the American Express because he was an amateur. And then you kind of have the game within the game, right? Nick Taylor's number 50 this week. He'd much rather get a lot of that dirty work done this week to secure himself in the BMW Championship as opposed to next week. And guys like Minwoo Lee, Justin Rose, Jordan Spieth, in between that 50 and 70 range, who need to make a move to ensure they're in signature events next year.
Well, it's time to fade Jordan Spieth with this wrist injury that we heard about today that he's still battling. Might do something about it in the offseason. Patrick, before we go on any further, can't play Jordan Spieth the rest of the year after hearing that, right?
No, I think it's good though. He needs to get it fixed. I've been hearing that he's been mulling over surgery for a bit now, and it'll be good to get him back to 100% because his iron play is just so bad.
Real quick, credit to Patrick McDonald. We know he's best friends with all these PGA Tour players. And he has inside sources. He was, to me, and I'm sure there were other people saying this, but I have the benefit of sharing a show with him like you do, EC. He was on this Jordan Spieth thing and the wrist injury like long before a lot of people were. And here's what I mean by that. I think a lot of people knew that Jordan Spieth might have had a wrist injury, but a lot of people were still taking Jordan Spieth. A lot of people were kind of overlooking that. Whereas every single time he came up to Patrick was like, no, this wrist injury is like a bigger deal than I think people think. I'm off him or I'm fading him or in a matchup or in DFS. So credit to Patrick McDonald, because it's been months that we've been talking about that.
Patrick, we're going to put you on the spot next week with the injury report heading into the playoffs. I expect full write-ups or full reports on Victor Hovland if he's got anything going on. Ludwig Oberg with his knee. We need to know it. We need to know these things. And so just be ready to be prepared for that. All right, let's get to DFS picks. We'll start with Patrick here. And, a couple weeks ago at the Open Championship, I thought, okay, after 2 rounds, this is over. This is the easiest live betting of the year. Shane Lowry at plus 190. It's done. It's over. He's going to win. And then he didn't. And he didn't even finish in the top 5. So you never know what you're going to get. And now he's a straight fade for you. Why?
Yes, I will be fading Shane Lowry. He is here for one reason and one reason only. It is to remain inside the top 10 in the FedEx Cup standing, the top 10 at the end of the regular season, get a year-end bonus over $1 million if he finishes at 10th, where he is right now. Very blunt about it at the Olympics. And you look at the winners at this golf course, it's a lot of putters, a lot of really good putters. Snedeker, Poston, Patrick Reed way back when. Tom Kim also. And so I think Lowry, even though the putters made a really nice improvement over the past month or so, I can't really trust it, right? Like we saw over the weekend at the Open. The putter can fall off quickly with Shayna. So I'm going to fade him. And then, I have 4 Olympians on this board. The top one, Victor Perez, 7,200. I am playing him this week. How can you not? 4th place finish at the Olympics. Final round, 8 under 63, almost grabs that bronze medal, but he's been great before that too. Contended at the Canadian Open also. And so he's a great approach player and a great putter. And he's won plenty on the DP World Tour. So I think it's a bit of a bargain at 7,200. CT Pan, 7,000. Also in the Olympics, hit his irons great there. This is a golf course he can contend on. A nice little Donald Ross design where you got to put the ball in the fairway, lean on that putter and those wedges, and he can certainly do that. Played well at the John Deere Classic, obviously, too, to punch that ticket into the Open. And then Nick Taylor, 6,800. Like I said, he's number 50 in the FedEx Cup. He has been pretty putrid since his win at the Phoenix Open in your neck of the wood, EC. I think he kind of needs you on the bag or something to get that mojo back. But the iron play has been pretty solid, and he finished strong at the Olympics, a couple rounds in the 60s on a Saturday and Sunday, and he has a good history here with a couple top 10s in his last 4 starts. So I think it's a great spot to buy Nick Taylor this week.
Yeah, it's amazing, Patrick, that when I saw Nick Taylor, the guy wasn't missing on the 18th hole. He was just nailing putt after putt. And over his last 10 tournaments, the guy has just been brutal with the putter. Kind of looks like me. Not that bad, but not good with the putter. So an interesting buy low spot there at 6,800, especially with the course history. Now, Sia, one of the players that I like this week, and I tried to convince myself not to like him, was Cam Young. Went to school at Wake Forest. I tried. He's on the no bet list. Like, I know these, but there's something that's like pulling me, like maybe this is the week that Cam Young gets over the hump. You're not feeling it. Why?
Especially not if it's a birdie fest and this guy has to make putts. We'll see. The first 2 days are going to be a little different than I think Saturday and Sunday. But even if we reduce the good weather conditions to Saturday and Sunday, are we expecting Cameron Young to close with the putter? I just haven't seen any evidence of that. There's reasons to basically take people off your outright list. And I think when it comes down to the putter, Cameron Young is that guy. I don't think I really need to explain beyond that. Listen, his driver, the things he can kind of maximize get mitigated here at Sedgefield. So I just don't see him having a big edge over the rest of the field. Cameron Davis is a guy I really like. Japan is in here. He says Cameron Davis is the best DFS play on the board. I got to tell you, spoiler alert, we're going to hear a lot about Cameron Davis today. I think he's going to win this tournament. I love the number at 40-1. 8,900, absolutely love that number too. Here's the thing. Most people will criticize me here because they'll say, well, you just talked about putting woes. And if anybody's had putting woes lately, it's been Cameron Davis. Now, the counter to that, of course, is, the accuracy off the tee, approach play, all good. History here, very good. recent form, won the Rocket Mortgage, was T19 at the 3M, but don't forget, he was in contention on Sunday. He just had a bad Sunday, a bad 18th hole, but just a bad Sunday in general. He had 3 great rounds at the 3M in like a similar talent-laden field or lack thereof. Here's the thing, though. If you want to criticize the putter, it's a fine argument, except for the fact that at Sedgefield, for whatever reason, Cameron Davis is unbelievable with the putter. So I get the impression that he's very comfortable on these greens, and he checks literally every other box. Absolutely love Cameron Davis at 8,900. I'll keep the other 2 relatively short. Matt Kuchar, I'm chasing a little bit here because obviously he was incredible on approach at the 3M. Absolutely could have won that tournament. But it's not just that I'm chasing gaining 10 strokes on approach. That's not going to happen. But I do think the approach play is coming around. I do think his play in general is coming around. I also think he's a pretty good course fit. The putter can be up and down for Matt Kuchar, but I've seen it spike, and I've seen it at least be decent more often than not. So I like him at 7,300. JJ Spaun, I kind of threw in there at the end. I had Ben Coles in this position, but I'm starting to notice something with JJ Spaun, like the approach and the putter really look good. And if you want to account for around the green play for all 3 of these guys, that's not bad either for JJ Spaun. So he checks a lot of boxes for me. I think this is a good course fit in spite of some checkered history. I like all 3 of these guys to start your DFS lineup.
Well, it's funny. It's great. You talked me more into Cam Davis. I liked him this week. I had him, I think, 5th in my rankings that are on sportsline.com, my fantasy rankings. So you kind of talked me into that. Now, everybody's kind of ripping in the chat on my putting. I just want to say this. In my league playoffs, my golf league playoffs on Sunday, yours truly is the 8 seed beat the 1 seed because he putted lights out down. I'm just saying, this guy hits a 15-foot birdie putt on 17 to knock out the. Hey, listen, every now and then the putter can get hot, as we've seen. Nick Taylor, I Nick Taylored it. Let's just say that. I had
easy money sniper.
There you go. Right. That's
easy money sniper.
No, Japan says EC equals easy coin.
There you go. Right there. I will say this. The guy that I lost to texted the whole group about, he said EC is like a stone cold killer on the greens. I said, there. I just hope you all remember that. All right. Coming up next, let's talk more Cam Davis love here on the Early Wedge. How about college football is right around the corner, and it makes me so happy. That's why you're going to see a lot of Arizona shirts from me over the next few weeks, especially since we know Sia is an ultra hater on U of A.
Ultra hater.
It's not Arizona.
Okay.
Well, it's not Arizona. It's just like the entire West Coast. It's like anytime they really need to show up and battle, it's like, they just kind of like slowly fade away.
I learned before the show. Yeah, we know y'all are West Coast haters. I get that. But you know what I learned? That there are rattlesnakes in Connecticut where Jake plays golf, producer Jake. Did you know there's the eastern rattlesnake that is more poisonous than a western diamondback? This is why I know it's 110 degrees out here today. I'll take what I have out here in Arizona. Just want to point that out. All right, let's talk more. Let's get back to the Windham Championship here. Get back on topic. Patrick, you're also on the anti-Cam Young bandwagon this week. Now, I like Davis Thompson. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good play. He won us some money the other week, but you're fading Cam again. Why?
I am. I mean, you got to make putts in. You see a lot of correlation between here and Detroit Golf Club. Both Donald Ross designs, both Cameron Young and Davis Thompson were in the mix there. But Davis Thompson, take away the Scottish swing, first time over there, first time playing those 2 events. And he has just been so good coming off that win at the John Deere Classic. I think he gets right back out on the wagon this week, -110 over Cameron Young, who surprisingly, I was looking through his starts this year. He has, I believe, 5 or 6 top 10 finishes, but only 1 additional top 20. So it's real boomer bust for Cameron Young. And so you give me a guy with Thompson who has a higher floor and now, honestly, a higher ceiling with the win. And yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
Zach makes a great point in the chat. Cam Young definitely has the best personality on the PGA. Oh, wait, maybe not. Okay. All right. Sia, you a few months ago taught us a geography lesson. Of what Oceania is. Now, it's been a while, and for those that weren't watching a few months ago, can you please explain what that is and how Cam Davis is tops in this category?
Well, this is such an interesting coincidence because we actually have a New Zealander in the chat. It's David Bileski, and he's, again, from New Zealand. He can probably explain this a little bit better than I can, but top Oceania is Australia, is in New Zealand, and just a wide swath of smaller islands like in that general vicinity. I know David's going to chime in here because I know he knows the exact answer to that, being from that area. But essentially what we're talking about is New Zealand and Australia. That's what top Oceania is going to mean 99 out of 100 times. And I like Cam Davis here. I love this number, plus 175. Now, the three others that are in contention here for top Oceania are Ryan Fox, Minwoo Lee, who you see here as well. So I'm kind of doubling up on Cam Davis. The other one is Aaron Baddeley. Listen, Aaron Baddeley, like, I'm sure he can shine one out of every 15 tournaments, but I don't expect him to like kind of be in the echelon of the other three. The question is Ryan Fox and Minwoo Lee. I don't think either of them are the course fit that Cam Davis is. Now, again, it comes down to the putter for Cam Davis. Is he going to continue with the bad putting? But I just like what I've seen from Cam Davis at Sedgefield. And for the record, I don't think Cam Davis played at the Olympics last week, whereas the other two did, Ryan Fox and Minwoo Lee. If you want to factor that in, that's kind of up to you. But I do think Cam Davis may be a little bit more fresh, a little bit more ready to dominate this particular tournament. But again, I don't think Minwoo Lee and Ryan Fox are going to have particularly great tournaments. I do think Cam Davis is going to have one. So I'm getting plus 175 to beat three other guys. Absolutely love it. And then, of course, you see Cam Davis over Minwoo Lee. Here's my thing here. It's up to you how you want to bet Cam Davis. I have a lot of different you can bet him top 20 or top 20 is probably like, I don't even remember the number, but like there's a lot of different ways you can play it. You don't have to take all of these bets. If you like my plays, you can pick one. I think of the two, I like Cam Davis minus 120 the best because he just has to beat the one guy. But because I like them both, I just wanted to put them both on here. That Cam Davis play is on DraftKings over Minwoo Lee. Vegas minus 110 over JT Poston is on BetMGM, FYI on that. And top Oceania should be pretty much everywhere, but that particular number I grabbed off of DraftKings. JT Poston's a mystery to me because a couple of weeks ago, I had JT Poston to win it all. I think it was at the 3M. I'm trying to remember where he missed the cut, if memory serves. He's just not playing good golf. Like he comes to these places where he's got good course history, seems to be a really good course fit, but at a certain point, you got to turn the tables a little bit and be like, yeah, that's all true, but Poston's just not playing good golf. Johnny Vegas playing good golf, shaking off injuries. The game is all around coming together. We obviously just saw him win at the 3M Open. The short game starting to come around as well. Great ball striker, likely to keep it in the fairway and be dialed in on approach. I haven't seen that from Poston for a few tournaments now. So give me Vegas minus 110 over the course fit JT Poston.
And David says Oceania, he does clarify it. See, Oceania is the continent of New Zealand, Australia, and the Pacific Islands. Nailed it. And you are a gentleman and a scholar, which I think all of us can agree with. So thank you, David, for clarifying that. And I always appreciate you being in the chat. Oceanias, if you have kangaroos, thank you, Hef. All right, my couple of picks from me here. I'm laying some big chalk. Usually I don't do that. Sung J M over Siwoo Kim, minus 155. I just don't think you can play Sung Jae at this outright number of plus 1,200, considering the guy hasn't won in, 4 years on tour, something like that. But he has 6 top 10s in his last 9 tournaments, and he's gained approximately 30 strokes combined tee to green in his last 4. That's good enough for me. And he has 3 top 10s in 5 trips here. Siwoo Kim's shockingly, he's making cuts. He just only has 1 top 10 all season. Good course history, but the putter has let him down of late. He's lost strokes in 8 of 10. I'm laying the big number. I think both these guys can finish in the top 10. I don't think either will win, but I'm going to roll with Sung Jae at minus 155 on DraftKings. Also on DraftKings was the fade Jordan Spieth week. We're going with Taylor Moore at plus 125. Spieth has that wrist injury and only 1 top 10 in his last 17, and that was a T10, I think, in San Antonio. He's lost strokes with a putter in 6 of 8, so I don't know if the wrist is hurting him on the greens, but he's definitely, that should be the strong part of his game, and he stinks right now. Since the PGA Championship, Taylor Moore has 3 top 12s and 5 missed cuts in 9 tournaments. Talk about boom or bust. That's what you're getting with Taylor Moore. We're going to take our chances that he beats Jordan Spieth at a plus number. Patrick, you're smirking there. Is that a good pick or a bad pick by me?
No, it's fine. I'm just enamored by your dialogue. It's fantastic.
Sure.
He's got resting smirk face very clearly.
I'm all for it. It's that hurricane that's flocking around him. Go ahead, Sia.
It is.
Can I point out this is interesting? David Talk, he put out his tournament plays in the chat, which thank you for doing that. He has Dietrich over Bez. He has Højgaard over Steven Jaeger. Kind of like that one. And he has, let's see, Cameron Young over Davis Thompson. I'm not a huge fan of that one. We already talked about that one. Patrick challenged him to a showdown. But here's the thing. One thing I noticed that, because coming into this tournament, I kind of liked Dietrich. Some of the numbers kind of spoke to me. I noticed that matchup, which I think is on DraftKings that David Talk pointed out, Christian Bezuidenhout is a minus 160 favorite against Thomas Dietrich, which was shocking to me. I thought, if anything, Dietrich might be a slight favorite, but Bez wouldn't be more than a minus 125 favorite. So I went and looked at some other matchups, and I noticed Seabez was a favorite, more of a favorite than I thought against somebody else. I'm forgetting who that person is, but I'd watch out. Like anytime the market like shows me something like that, like minus 160 against Dietrich, I don't care if you're a better course fit or not, which would be arguable anyway. Minus 160, like something's going on there. So I would just be really careful fading Seabez. Not that I'm playing him or I'm betting on him, but when you notice the market is on a Tuesday like that, something's going on there, and I would be a little careful with that.
Wow. David's educating us more about the Oceania region. There are no kangaroos in New Zealand. Well, another thing, I mean, look at the things I'm learning here, but if it's poisonous or wants to eat you, that's all Aussie. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Okay, good to learn what's going on here. Diamondback or rattlesnakes in the Northeast, no kangaroos in New Zealand. If anyone else has any facts, please put them in the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
I do. This is how I like my brain works. I was going to come to the show. Like, this is the first time I haven't had first round leaders, because again, I'm waiting on the weather and waves and all of that stuff. And I heard myself saying on the show before the show started, I don't want to just throw out first round leaders willy-nilly. And I'm like, well, nobody really says willy-nilly anymore. And where did that phrase even come from? Like, even when people were saying it, like, what is that? It's an idiom. And I looked it up before the show, like 10 minutes before the show, I looked it up. And so you asked, does anybody have any more fun facts, minuscule facts, maybe irrelevant facts? Here's where willy-nilly came from, everybody. Derived from Shakespearean expression "we," which is a contraction that means whether one wants to or not. See, there you go. You asked. Sorry.
Wow.
Patrick, you gotta. I know you don't have any picks in the finish.
I feel like I gotta add a fact here.
You gotta add something here. Yeah. What do you got?
Wow. Put me on the spot. Detroit is east of Atlanta. Did you know that?
I did not, actually. Really?
That's shocking. Actually.
That is shocking. Actually.
There you go.
Look what you learn on Early Wedge. It's not just golf on this program. We learn about kangaroos. We learn about geography. Yeah. All right. Now let's learn about some winners from Sia here, who's going with a big card in the finishing positions area. You know, this makes me happy. I have 5. You have 5. But let's start with a guy that I just faded, and that's Siwoo Kim. You're playing him in the top 20. Why do you like him in the top 20?
You know, he's got good enough history here. The form is okay, but he's got good enough history here for me to like him again in the top 20. I don't think he's going to win the tournament, but I do like him in the top 20 market at plus 125. I will keep something in mind with the weather the way it is. You know, I always say with the finishing positions, I always bet these a little lesser than I would like a matchup, for example, usually like a half a unit or maybe even less if I'm getting like a really big plus number. Just, you know, be careful going into these numbers. Aren't going to change. If you find something just radically crazy happening with the weather and you want to lay off some of these, that's fine. But I think Siwoo Kim at Sedgefield is a really good pick to T20. Billy Horschel, I think, is another guy that can actually win this tournament, whereas I'm not really looking for that from Siwoo Kim. Again, if this gets crazy, if the around the green play is factored in here, Billy Horschel checks that box as well. I love how he's playing. T20 at plus 125. Eric Cole, T40 plus 110. The game's come around. The Eric Cole from this summer and earlier than that, who was like pretty horrific, he's really rebounded. And he's getting hot with the putter. He's getting hot with the approach play. T40 at plus money. I like that. Matt Kuchar, again, I think this is a really good course fit. I do like the form that he's in. Plus 125 in the T40 market there. And then JJ Spawn, I mentioned him in the DraftKings or the DFS portion. He's made 5 cuts in a row. He's playing pretty well. Like all the metrics that speak to me for Sedgefield, the approach play, the putter, the around the green, if that comes in, he's really been good all around. Like he's a really good all around player right now. And that's exactly what I'm looking for in the T40 market. I don't need him to spike top 10. T40 at plus 130. I'll take that.
All right, Patrick, before I make my picks here, am I crazy for wanting to go with Webb Simpson? Considering its history here, he has a kid named Wyndham after this tournament because he's been so good here, 10 top 10s and 15 starts, but there's been no form this year, and it just looks like he's lost it. Am I crazy or am I onto something?
Well, you know, he had no form last year either, and he finished, what, T5? So
yep.
Do your thing, EC. Do your thing.
8-1. 8-1 top 10. Do I feel like a genius or I mean, listen, it's 8-1. You do what you want with it. I mean, this is a gift, and this is with ties. Got these at DraftKings plus 350 for a top 20. I mean, the history here in his last 7 tournaments here, he has 5 top 5s. I mean, that's crazy good. Sometimes, and we played this the other month with JJ Spawn. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago, where JJ Spawn was in terrible form, but he had great course history, and I think he top 10 that week, and he was at odds something like that, maybe not this crazy, but still up there. I think you're getting great stuff at Webb Simpson here. Plus 800, top 10, plus 350, top 20. Davis Thompson, who's been talked about a little bit, top 20, plus 170. I think this is also a gift. It was T22 last year, despite losing strokes with the putter. And he has 5 top 20s in his last 6 on American soil. We're going to cross out anything overseas or in Canada. So I like that. Cam Davis, talked about that a lot, top 20, plus 200. I don't think I need to chime in more about that. But how about Patrick Fishburne? Now, I'll be honest, before I did my homework before I did research for my article for the fantasy column, had never heard of Patrick Fishburne, but I probably should have. Top 20 is plus 350. He has 3 top 25s in his last 3 tournaments, including a 6th place finish at the Twin Cities. He's gained strokes with his ball striking in 7 straight PGA Tour events and more than 17 strokes putting in his last 3 events combined. Can he keep it going at this number? I feel like we're going to get rich this weekend. And where can you get rich? Well, I don't want to guarantee anything, but if you want to bet some of these markets with the ties, you can do so at BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's EDGE, EDGE. Coming up next, will I break the streak of picking a player who's on my don't bet list? We're going to find out after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, Jake. Let's see. There it is. Oh, man. Olympics count. Man, oh, man. I got to admit, outside of the Scheffler and the late inclusion of Schauffele, it's a pretty good list. We haven't really been threatened for victory. Tommy Fleetwood gave us a little bit of a scare at the Olympics. Sam Burns hasn't been close. The Gala hasn't been great. Cam Young, we know, is never going to finish, presumably. Cantlay choked I put him on after the Genesis. Finau, I thought about revoking that one, maybe putting a line through that one. So I think this is a pretty good list. All right, here's a question, guys. In the next 4 weeks, outside of Scheffler and Schauffele, who are taken, will any of these guys win a playoff tournament or this week? Yes or no? Sia, how about you start first?
First of all, I do think this is a pretty good list. If you in the Scotty Scheffler one, I don't even really want to count against you because you were trying to make a point that you don't want to take in golf, this sport of variance. You don't want to take a guy that's plus 900 or plus 650. You were trying to make that point, not realizing that Scotty was about to go on like a Tiger Woods-esque type of run. No, I'm not comparing the two. So, it's not bad. I think the guy that can win, I would say Patrick Cantlay because I don't expect it. I did the Tommy Fleetwood rant before the Olympics, and he almost shut me up real quick, but turns out he didn't because he never does. So I think Patrick Cantlay is that guy that can just kind of show up in the playoffs and be the old Patrick Cantlay.
Well, last time I checked, all the FedEx Cup playoffs are on American soil, and we know Tommy Fleetwood never wins on that, so I don't think we have to be worried. Patrick, should I be worried about any of these other players not named Scheffler or Schauffele over the next 4 weeks?
I like Cantlay also, and I think Finau's primed to win. He's done it in the playoffs before. I would not be surprised if he gets another playoff victory.
Japan, we will not be scratching off 4 more names on this list over the next 4 weeks. We might add another number next to the X where Schauffele and Scheffler are, but we'll one of those 2 guys is going to win at East Lake, but that's that. All right, yeah. Let's get on to our winners this week. And Patrick, we're going to start with you. Got an interesting list here. Now, Brian Harman, I looked at him this week. The course history isn't great, but it's a shorter course, and we know Brian Harman pretty darn good. The other thing is, though, he hasn't won on American soil in a long time either. So why this week? He hasn't.
That's fair. That's fair enough. There is one person in this field who is inside the top 30 in terms of strokes gained approach and strokes gained putting over the last 6 months. And his name, wait for it, is Brian Harman. So I'm going with Brian Harman. He also happens to be a very accurate driver of the golf ball. That is huge this week at Sedgefield Country Club. So despite the bad course history, which, I mean, it isn't terrible, he has a couple decent outings here. I think he is he's due. He's playing a lot better than I think people are giving him credit for outside the defense at the Open. Played well at the Travelers Championship, the U.S. Open as well, kind of his last few starts on American soil. So Georgia Bulldog, Georgia boy, comfortable in this part of the country. Like him at 30-1. And then Christian Bezuidenhout, 35-1. Sia mentioned the prices in the matchup. I think it's I don't want to call myself sharp because I'm probably not, but I think it's a heady play at 35-1. Accuracy, good iron play, and good putter. That is Christian. The iron play has been a little off recently, but at the Olympics, he was top 10 off the tee, top 5 in terms of putting also. So I think he rides that wave of momentum into this week and threatens to get his first win on the PGA Tour.
Fair enough. Sia, one of the players that I really like this week, probably my only outright, is Billy Horschel in the with market. The problem is 4 years ago at this tournament, Billy Horschel had it locked up on the back nine, and then he collapsed. And then some guy named Jim Herman won at 300-1, and literally one of the sickest golf losses I've had. Patrick, you remember that tournament? It was so bad. I had him and Siwoo Kim, and they were both contending, and literally they both just collapsed on the back. It was awful. So why are you bullish on Billy Horschel performing well and winning this week?
First of all, Brad Morris, I love the legendary reference from How I Met Your Mother, NPH. Love that. Horschel is in good form right now. I mean, small sample size a little bit, but we saw that form even a couple of months ago start to shift when he got that club thing figured out. His record here, you talked about that one collapse. His last 4 tries here, 4th, 27th, 2nd, the one he choked to Jim Herman, and the year prior 6th. If anybody has this course figured out and knows how to manage this course, it's Billy Horschel. And he happens to be coming off a 2nd place at the Open Championship. I just think this is, first of all, it's a very fair number. I would have expected him to, he crashed from 25 to 22, but then went right back up to 25. I think a lot of people are in on Sung J M, and it kicked some of these odds a little bit longer. But I really like Billy Horschel. And if he was 18-1 or even 16-1, maybe not 16. If he was 18-1, I would not have been surprised at all. So I really like this number at 25. I've already sung the praises of Cameron Davis. I'm obviously kind of in on him. If he has a bad tournament, I have a bad tournament. I'm totally okay with that. It's up to you whether, again, you want to take all of the Cameron Davis picks that I have. But that's what I'm doing. I love the number at 45-1. I think it's plus 4,000 in most places at this point. And then Johnny Vegas already talked about him as well, 50-1. But if I had to give you 2 of my favorite, it would be Billy Ho and Cameron Davis. And somebody in the chat asked about Aaron Rai. I also like Aaron Rai. If I was going to add a 4th name to this, it probably would have been Aaron Rai for whatever that's worth, but I'm not taking him.
All right, so I am going to take Aaron Rai in the without market. And let me tell you something about the withouts. They have changed over the last day. If you saw these numbers on FanDuel yesterday, some of them were actually equal to the with markets.
Yeah.
Now, Denny McCarthy was 70-1 yesterday. Now he's 50-1. He's been on record that he loves this course, and he's one of the best putters on tour. I think he's number 3 on tour in strokes gained putting, and he can rack up birdies in bunches, as we saw in San Antonio in that duel with Akshay Bhatia. Cam Young, I mean, I hate doing it, but it doesn't count as an outright, I guess. I mean, the way I did this, he did go to school at Wake Forest. That's probably the only nice thing that I have to say. If there's one, the thing about Cam, I don't even know what to say about Cam Young. We know he's not Mr. Personality. I just want this guy to win already. Just get it over with so we don't have to talk about it. If we cross it out this week, that's fine, because then I'll win money. And then Aaron Rai, this number was at plus 3,300 yesterday, even on the without market. Now it's down to plus 2,500. 3 straight top 10s or top 7s in the U.S. for that UK swing. Playing really good golf. Once again, can he finish? He was great in the last round of the one that Davis Thompson won, the John Deere. But before that, he kind of collapsed. I think it was Detroit had that one, was going in first place going into the week or going into Sunday, and then he just didn't finish. Never know what to make sense of it there. I'm going Aaron Rai, Cam Young, Denny McCarthy, my long shot there, and then, of course, Billy Horschel. All right, time for long shots. I created my own parlays, but we're not going to start with that. I think David Talk said one of you has to have Victor Perez. And guess what? One Patrick McDonald does. Okay, Patrick, why Victor Perez? I mean, NBC talked about him enough on the telecast there. Victor, I mean, they didn't care about Scotty Scheffler. It was all Victor Perez, Victor Perez. Why? Tell us about why you like Victor Perez.
So, as you know, I was in Montreal last week, French-speaking part of the world, and they were all coming up to me talking about this Victor Perez cat. So
I'm sure.
I think similar to NBC, I guess. I wasn't listening too hard, but he's playing some really good golf. Obviously, coming off the 4th place at the Olympics, he needs a good start, being number 1 in the FedEx Cup as well. And so I think the fit's great. He can find fairways and bunches, good iron player, and can roll the rock really well. And that's really what you're looking for this week. So I think 80 to 1's fair. The price on Taylor Moore I don't love at 70 to 1. And you mentioned the boom or bust kind of nature of his game, but Taylor Moore kind of just has Taylor Moore golf courses. He played well at Copperhead without much form. He played well at Memorial Park right after Copperhead. He played well at the Rocket Mortgage Classic without much form, like he does every year. He played well at the 3M Open. And so this has to be one of those courses, I guess. Another Donald Ross design. He puts the living crap out of the golf ball here. He's done it over the past month. The iron play was a little bit better at the 3M Open, so I'll take a swing at 70 with him.
All right, Brad, you want to know, Brad Morris in the chat wants to know, what did Victor Perez do to me? I actually had $5 on Victor Perez outright, or in the without market, at 150 to 1 last week. So as he was charging down the stretch, it got my hopes up a little bit. I was waiting for the Tommy Fleetwood choke. Hideki Matsuyama was going backwards. I'm thinking, all right, just get second, win a silver, let Scotty win. Then I hit this at 150 to 1. And yes, it was a parlay, so it would have paid more than just 150 to 1. I mean, I was feeling really good about life. And then he came up short. So yeah, I'm a little bitter, but he had a great final round. All right. Sia, this is an interesting one with Matt Kuchar at 100 to 1 here. Really good odds, but when's the last time Kuch won? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm not super inspired by this pick. This is a little bit of a FOMO play. EC, you were supposed to be on, I know you were traveling. You were supposed to be on the network show with us on the first cut a couple of weeks back that Patrick and I did together. And that was the day I had made the morning I made the Johnny Vegas live play at 60 to 1. And on the network show, I was talking about how Matt Kuchar, prior to the 3M Open, like he showed up in my research as a play, and I was telling Patrick on the show, like I can't. By the way, that was such a flex for everybody. It was like very obvious.
Did you bet on Johnny Vegas that episode?
Yes, I said it 6 times during the show. Thank God it came through. But here's the point: we talked about how Matt Kuchar was in a pretty good position. It turns out on Sunday he was in a good position too. And here's the thing: if my research prior to the 3M Open, where he gained 10 strokes on approach in a similar type field, if my research told me, hey, Kuchar might be a play here in DFS or otherwise, and then he has that tournament, it's hard for me to look away from 100 to 1 on Matt Kuchar here, especially if the approach plays any semblance of what it was. And again, I do think he's a good course fit. So Matt Kuchar, 100 to 1. Side note, Joe Neuenfeld says, fun fact, hippophobia is a fear of horses, which is actually shocking to me because I just would have assumed that was a fear of hippos. And so then I Googled, well, what's a fear of hippos? And what came out was the longest word I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't even say it. Like, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Horsophobia.
Yeah, it may as well be.
Never know what you'll learn here on the Early Wedge. All right. So, I hit a parlay. Last time we did a show, it was a live parlay at plus 867. So you can't, you got to go easy on me with these. These are custom parlays. I made these on DK. Top 10, Billy Horschel, Aaron Rye. We talked about them enough. Plus 1340, and this includes ties. Absolutely love it. This top 20, Cam Young and Denny McCarthy, plus 845. I mean, this is what betting golf tournaments is made of right here. Making your own. Wait, you don't agree that making your own parlays is what it's? Okay, I guess not. But for me, it is, and I'm going to bet these, and I'm going to hopefully win, and then I can brag about them next week. I don't know what that word is that Jake just posted in the chat. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. See if you want to give that a whirl.
Yeah, let me take a shot. Okay. This is impossible. Okay. Hippopotamonstrosquidopedelophobia. I think I was close, but I don't think
Patrick, you want to try that one?
Yeah, give me a second to breathe real quick.
Breathe through it.
Hippopotamonstrosquidopedelophobia.
I think Sia was closer. Just a hunch play on that one. All right, as we wrap this up, let's get some final thoughts. A couple players we haven't talked about. Let's talk about Akshay Bhatia. Now, this guy has been playing some really good golf. 35 to 1. Sia, are these odds fair for him? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think they're very fair. For some reason, I'm not on Akshay Bhatia this week. I don't really have a super solid explanation for it. I mean, there's only so many people you can fit on your card, but I think Akshay's fine. Not on my betting card, but I mean, obviously super talented. ball striking usually there. So, I mean, I totally get it on Akshay, but it's not for me this week.
All right, another guy that's Patrick, kind of a weird price here, a winner, two-time winner in the last 6 weeks or so. Robert McIntyre at 50-1. Is this an unfair price?
I think it should be longer. I
Really?
for one reason or another, I just can never get behind Robert McIntyre. I mean, he squeezed out the absolute most from his 2 good starts, and those were obviously wins. But yeah, I'm good passing on him.
I'll say this. It was sort of at the bottom of my list. I kind of make a list of like a top 25 in some of the major categories that I'm looking at, top 30 sometimes. At the bottom of that list, Robert McIntyre did show up. And so weighted approach, weighted putting, the around the green play, which again could come into play here. He checked a lot of those boxes. I actually think he's kind of like a sneaky DFS play. I don't expect him to like win the tournament or even top 10 necessarily, but I think McIntyre's interesting. I'll say this about Batia, by the way, because I just double checked. His history here is not very good. Then again, back then he wasn't the player he is now. So you have to kind of like put some proper context on that. But, you know, his recent history, a little checkered over the last couple. I can give him a pass for that, but his course history, not great either.
Guys, as always, great show. We have a few more of these left. The FedEx Cup playoffs coming up, but let's cash some tickets this week. And thanks to all of you in the chat. Great job participating and making it interesting for us to follow along as we go along the show. So for Patrick McDonald and Sia Nejad, boy, I can't even say your name right. And of course, producer Jake does a great job behind the scenes. I am Eric Cohen. And as I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.